Okay, welcome back. The Nifty, almost blinking red and green. We're almost back in the green. So 2-point change, 10,921. Manisha is here, as always, with a quick check on what's happening in the world of commodities. And I think we're focusing on metals today. Manisha, morning.
We are, yes, Prashant. And the metal prices have seen some buying on the back of the fact that the prices were oversold. And also, there are China finance minister officials saying that the government will step up the fiscal spending in 2019 to support the economy. And that is where the prices seem to be taking some support from. Also, while, of course, there are some concerns back in case of US and China trade talks, where US, as per the report, seems to have cancelled the preparatory talks ahead of the actual talks. Remember, China goes in for the New Year holidays from 5th of Feb, and the markets were anticipating that some information, some final resolve perhaps could be reached between US and China ahead of China heading for the New Year holidays. But markets really are watching that with keen interest. Apart from that, there have been various bank reports as well. There is one from Commerce Bank which says that even as the aluminum production in China is at a much higher rate, but with the kind of shutdowns that we have seen for China's smelting capacity, the smelters, remember, are losing nearly $145 per ton in case of the pricing. There is a reason that you wouldn't see the kind of production that we are seeing continue much higher. There also is a report from Deutsche Bank that says the China zinc production continues to be on the weaker side. Remember, the Shanghai zinc inventories are at a decade lows, and the markets, of course, continue to see a deficit for this year as well. But with the kind of buying that we've seen in the day-to-day and with the latest US and China statements coming in, how would you look at the prices? For that, let's get in Paul Bartholomew from S&P Global Platts. He joins us on a phone line to talk further about that. Paul, hi, good to have you. What is your sense on the various statements that have been coming in from China on the fiscal spending and, of course, the reported stuff on US and China talks itself?
Yeah, Manisha. It's getting, I suppose, a few messages out of China. So we're seeing a few, I guess you can call them stimulus measures, or at least some measures to try and incentivize and kickstart certain parts of the economy, particularly around the manufacturing sector and even a little bit in property. But at the same time, the People's Bank of China have been saying they're not going to flood the market with stimulus. The current sort of leadership in China, in a way, been sort of trying to get things back on an even keel after the administration before that put a lot of stimulus in after the financial crisis. So they don't want to kind of just create more debt that they've got at the end of taking the problem down the road. But it's a very uncertain time, as I probably said before. We're coming into the Chinese New Year. There's nothing really concrete on the US and China sort of relationships, other than the fact that they're not arguing per se at the moment. They're just saying they're sort of going to continue talking. But I think it's very much a watching brief, because there's nothing and there's no concrete statement. There's been nothing really about overturning sort of tariffs or anything like that.
Sure is the case, yes. So while, of course, there is uncertainty from there, how do you read the aluminum output from China and the fact that the smelters are losing $145 per ton of that they, produce there? What kind of an impact would you see of that going forward?
I think what you sort of tend to see sometimes when they sort of start, if they start losing money for a sustained sort of period of time, that's when you'll start seeing sort of production sort of coming off. Obviously, aluminium prices have been sort of affected, I guess, just with the general sort of contagion in the metal sector. We see what we tend to see in steel, where margins are very, very slim at the moment, is that in a way, sometimes they lift production because they just have to sort of lift volumes and just collect the margins. It's not until there's a real sustained downturn that you start seeing production being switched. And typically in China, they're very loath to turn production off, because everybody's worried that the competitor down the road is going to sort of steal their market share, and they won't be able to get that customer back again. So, generally speaking, they'll keep sort of production going until things get bad on a very sustained basis.
Paul, one final question. So while we have seen most, the metal prices, of course, continuing to be on the weaker side, but on the other side, many of these metals are in deficit for this year. And with the kind of in-warrant numbers that we saw come in last 24 hours does tell you that more and more metal is being marked for delivery. Do you finally see some strength come back in metals on back of these factors?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, with look at copper. There's deficit, but then BHP, I think, said was it yesterday or the day before that they're going to lift sort of production, whereas Turquoise Hill, another producer, said theirs might be down. So, but we think something like copper has a reasonable story, but there's going to be a lot of volatility, and I think really until people, until we get into sort of Q2, when we're well the other side of Chinese New Year and people get more of a sense of what's going on with stimulus, what's going on with the relationship with the US, that we might get a bit more confidence in the market. At the moment, everything, very slow. Wherever you look in the US, in the EU, China, it's all a bit sort of slow at the moment. Everybody's sort of waiting for some, certainty.
Sure. All right, Paul, we'll let you go at that. Thank you so much. So slim margins in steel and smelters losing money in aluminum could be one of the reasons that we might see production go down.
Okay, all right, Manisha, thanks very much for that. So that's the update coming in from the commodity and the currency space. We need to take a break with the news that the Nifty is absolutely flat. We have the mid-cap index, which is just about holding with a gain of around 0.3%. Up next, market technicals lined up with Ashwini Gujral.